What up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. It's a sunny, almost evening time here, and I'm in my backyard and I'm gonna practice a little bit against my net. I actually haven't been hitting on the traditional tennis courts recently for like a week because I'm just really into the idea of actually developing my two-hander more, I should say. I sort of hit a wall a while ago with my one-hander and my two-hander, and for a while I just explored both, but I started to see some limitations that frustrated me on the one-hander. And I've just had a two-hander for so much longer, so I've kind of felt like I want to pick up where I left off and just hit a ton of two-handed backhands. And I've been switching rackets a lot recently, which has been a little disorienting for my tennis. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys my net here, and I'm going to show you why this is helping out my backhand so much. So some people out there might talk about how this kind of practice isn't realistic. But you know how many pros out there just have a ball drop fed to them on a tennis court and then they hit the ball? That's not very realistic either. But the thing is, once you get good enough, you know what you need to work on and you know how to work on it. And for me, I'm at a level where, well, with this net setup, it's not necessarily easy to just hit the ball into the net and then get it again. Like, you can see that I'm able to do this consistently, which says something about my level, and it says something about the net as well. It's consistent enough to where I can rally with it, but it's not like the net is doing all the work. So my point is that once you're good enough and once you have decent footwork and you know how to position yourself in such a way that you're contacting the ball at a pretty optimum point, you have good feel and good stroke mechanics. If you know what that looks like and what that feels like, it doesn't necessarily matter what the ball is doing as long as you get to hit it. Because the rest you already understand. Like a lot of these balls, I just know from feeling them that these would totally go into the court. Maybe not that one. But I know what a good backhand feels like. And I know what a good forehand feels like. But it generally works out that I'm hitting a lot more forehands than I am backhands. And this is just a nice way for me to work on whatever I want to work on with a lot of repetition. And recently I've found that it's just been a lot of fun to hit a ton of backhands in a row. Sometimes I practice a little open stance like this. Sometimes I try to do small little brushy shots. Funny enough, it's kind of awkward for me, and I'm trying to change this, but it's awkward for me to be warming up with someone at short court, and something about the backhands and hitting them slow and brushy, it's so much harder. And I think it mostly just has to do with going most of your day, most of your life, as a right-handed person, which I am and most people are, just not really doing anything with your left hand, you know? You probably eat with your right hand, you write with your right hand, your right hand's on the cursor, or the mouse, I should say, for your computer. And just all the little things about your day. More often than not, you're going to be using your right hand, like brushing your teeth probably, you know? Just all the little things that keep your hand-eye coordination in shape. Mostly happening on your right hand and not your left hand. So this is a really good way for me to just use my left hand specifically for tennis and specifically for backhand. And one thing I'm trying to be really conscious of is getting this brush. Stay loose. That's kind of what makes the two-hander a little tricky. Whoa. That's gonna happen sometimes. That's why I got these pool noodles here to reduce the rebound a little bit, but yeah, mechanically speaking, the two-hander is kind of complicated in that sense that you're trying to get two hands to have as much fluidity as one hand. And the left hand is probably just not as coordinated as the right hand. So I think the more that you do this, the more coordination you develop. So this is one of those things, like if you're trying to get your backhand better, repetition can go a long way, especially when you're repeating helpful things like good stroke mechanics and good footwork. Because even just setting yourself up to hit a ball on the left side of your body, it's sort of foreign, you know? As a right-handed person, there's just a lot of things I'm wired to do with my right hand, and that goes all the way into how I position myself and how I look at the ball and how I stand. You know, am I right? Is my right leg behind me or is my left leg behind me? And am I transferring weight from my left leg to my right leg when I go from forward to back, or is it the other way around? Because most of the time it's the other way around. But when you're hitting a backhand, it's got to be this way. So just doing this over and over and over again, as long as you're repeating good mechanics and you have good habits, I think you can really develop a lot of skill and polish up areas of your backhand that need improvement. This net, you can hit pretty hard into it and it just sort of drops the ball back, so you really got to generate your own pace. And I think when it comes to stroke mechanics and that brushy, loose feeling, hitting a nice slow ball consistently is actually going to do a lot more to develop your feel than a ball where you kind of rush through everything so quickly you don't really understand it fully, you know? So don't underestimate the value of an exercise like this or having a net like this in your backyard. If you have room and you want a home practice setup, I think this can do wonders for your tennis. So I'm out here just trying to perfect my backhand as much as reasonably possible. And I look forward to going back on court and seeing how things work. Because if you see my channel, you probably noticed that I do a one and a two-hander, which is fun and all, but there's areas where the one or the two is probably better. But for me, on average, I think the two has more potential. One of the shots that really discourages me from having a one-handed backhand, and I think that this is not so much me, obviously it's partly me, but it's also just a mechanical shortcoming of the one-handed backhand, is sometimes you get like a low slice ball and it's only going to bounce maybe about a foot high or something like that. And if that kind of ball comes on my forehand side, I have no problem like scooping that up and ripping that back with a forehand topspin shot. Like I can really scoop that up with a lot of pace. I can hit those balls like full power. But when I have a one-handed backhand, I can't. I just can't flick my wrist the way that I can on a forehand. And that's partly because of the muscles that are involved. But that range of motion is limited in its strength with a one-handed backhand. And when you have two, it's just a lot easier to scoop up low balls like that. And with the one-hander, I find that those low slice balls, I generally just have to slice those back, and I don't like feeling as though that's my only option to get the ball back into play. I want to have the option to either slice it or come up over it. I don't want to feel like my backhand side is just a handicap compared to my forehand side in every way, but in that situation, I definitely feel like that on the backhand side with the one-hander. Whereas with the two-hander, sometimes the mobility side of it just feels awkward, but I feel like a lot of that just has to do with me not using my left hand enough and not hitting enough backhands. But you can make the argument that the mobility of having two hands on the racket is definitely less than one, right? Compared to a one-handed backhand, or just comparing it to a one-handed forehand. But I think a lot of that can be overcome just with practice and repetition. So I feel that fluidity coming, and I feel the backhand developing into something better the more I do this, and I'm just excited to go back on court and see how it actually translates in the real world. So that's what I'm up to. I just thought I'd share that with you. I will leave a link in the description for this net, and there's another video I did on what I've done to the net to make it work the way that I use it. So check those out if you're interested. It's only, I think, about 90 bucks for this net. It's not a bad deal. One lesson with the Tennis Pro is like 50 or 60 bucks, so you can get a net and work on this yourself for 1.5 lessons worth, and this could last you forever. Think about it. All right, thanks for watching. You can check me out on Instagram, and you can follow or subscribe here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.